Hi folks. A lovely frosty morning. It's not November yet, not quite. I think it's what, 29th today? Tuesday. And you've probably noticed, I'm not exactly the most popular channel on YouTube, but you'll notice that my videos have been getting further and further apart, and there's a good reason for that. It's because as you begin to learn more about what's really going on, or why it's going on, you begin to understand. And there's an old saying, an old teaching, as it were, that the fools use many words, the wise use few words, or words to that effect. And I'm not blowing my own trumpet now, I'm just saying that that's actually true. I didn't think it was, relevant, but as you learn more, you think more and you say less, and it's true. And then when you do say something, it tends to be slightly more profound or deeper, somebody was having a go at me the other day about because I was saying the world's not overpopulated, and they were saying, oh yes it is, and somebody said, oh, so you think a human life's worth more than a lion? And I said, yeah. And they said, well, why do you think that? And I said, because we're on a different level of consciousness. Now that's not me. That's something that I've just learned, which has sunk into my subconscious. I'd have never said that a year ago. In fact, I would have probably agreed with him. But it's my theory that there's a reason why the satanic powers that be have allowed the population to grow and grow and grow. Because if it suited them, they wouldn't have. They would have had another war or whatever, and they're about to have another war, and I think they're about to have another war for a good reason. When you start to understand this stuff, you realise that to manifest something, whatever it is, an idea or sorry, I've got to put this down for a minute, it's really bright. You need to think about it. It's the trivium method. You need to think about it, then you need to understand it, then you need to action your understanding. And the whole universe works like that on a grand scale. Now they want to bring in this global corporatist control mechanism, but they can't do it without us, because there's only a few of them and there's lots of us. So what they've had to do is allow lots of people to spread out over the planet, and then completely indoctrinate them with TV, with newspapers, with all that kind of stuff, and make them think a particular way. When they think in a particular way, that manifests. Do you get where I'm coming from? So you've got all this, you've got an ancient priest class who want to suck man into darkness. I don't know who it is. you know, I don't even know if they're of this world. Who knows? What I do know is there's always been a battle for good and evil, and you know, look at it as the darkness and the light. They want to suck us all into darkness, and so they use fear, they use lies, they use deceit, they even tell you the truth sometimes, because the truth can distort, or the truth can promote evil sometimes. So they'll tell you a little bit of the truth, and then they'll pollute one tiny little bit of that truth at the end or something, which changes the context. You know, like an apostrophe changes the context of a word. So you could get a whole narrative, you know, a whole story or a teaching of some description, and they'll change one word in the whole story, which changes the whole thing. Newspapers do it all the time. You know, if you watch a lot of YouTube videos of news stories and that, you can see people like the Corbett Report is a good one, and the UK Column is another good one, and they actually flag up how that they people have changed the context of a story by changing a word. So you can understand that they need, because there's lots of us, and they know there's lots of people who are learning stuff, and there's lots of people who are beginning to understand and wake up, because we're not in the age of evil anymore. So there's cosmic assistance for us to help try and sort out the this mess that's been around for thousands of years. And you know, all the holy books of the world tell the same story, but the dark side, the darkness, I'll call it, because if you call it other things and it just got connotations of what you've been indoctrinated with ever since you were a child. So if I use the word Satan, or if I use the word Christian or Muslim or whatever, then that's gonna put pictures in your mind, you know. So I'm not going to use those words, I'm just going to call it the darkness. The darkness needs a critical mass of people to bring about permanent darkness. You see all over the world the black cubes, and a cube within a cube within a cube symbolises the permanent imprisonment of the soul in complete darkness, and that's what they're aiming for. And there's a lot of us, and we're waking up, and that's why they needed so many people to try and manifest this. Now, the date 2020 keeps popping up all the time. It you know, rollout of 5G, new rules for contractors, new rules within the EU and all that, and this number keeps cropping up over and over again, and I think that's when the global clampdown is going to happen, and that's going to last about 3 years. Now there's a chap, if you go on YouTube and look up David Kamei, unfortunately he's had a stroke, and but previous to that he wrote a book called God Makes His Move, and it's very in depth and it's hard work to read, but it's full of quite a lot of interesting research, and talks about the spiritual plane, and it's a free download. You can get it on PDF, and it's well worth getting. Watch some of his videos, they're all still up on YouTube. I met the guy and he was a really nice guy, but he's fallen off the radar now for obvious reasons. And it wouldn't surprise me if he was targeted for a stroke. But anyway, I digress. So, if they think that they've achieved this critical mass, there must be a point where they are actually going to achieve it. Have you noticed how people who are standing up to the inverted commas, the New World Order, all having the shit blown out of them? Assad, the Palestinians, the Yemenis, and there's people all over the world that and other people are being used, like this column of so-called refugees that's heading for the US. They're just being used. They can't see it. Well, they can see it, and that's just a carbon copy of what has happened and is happening in Europe. A great column of people, most of them young men, being paid. I've seen the video where people are dishing out money to them, being paid, and going where they, basically trying to invade the US, and there's 5,500 American troops on the border. It's only going to end in tears, isn't it? Because they're not going to let them in. Who knows who's engineered this? I don't know. Could be Soros, could be the CIA, could be Clinton, could be somebody with completely no idea. What I do know is it's being done to try and foment civil war. These people are, almost certainly Trump's not going to be left with a choice. He's going to end up firing on these people, and they're stupid enough to believe that they can just walk down the street and walk straight into the US. Well, the world has gone mad at the moment. People believe stupid things like, everything. The paper space bullshit, the TV space bullshit, and everybody you speak to, they just spout out the party line, and the more you learn, you can predict what they're going to say. You can actually, you can say something, you know exactly what their answer is going to be, because they're programmed. They don't call TV programs for nothing, do they? And all these things create vibration. Max Egan talks about the pre-flood language, very close to Hungarian, which the whole world spoke, and it's hugely more descriptive than English. And he's got a theory that this is why that we're all being indoctrinated into speaking English, and it's basically because English is hugely less descriptive, and therefore doesn't create the vibration that the universe is picking up. The Japanese scientist who wrote love and hate on glasses of water and then froze them instantly, and then looked at the crystalline structure, and you can see the glass with love on it beautiful, beautiful vibration was frozen into the water molecules, and the one with hate on it was all disrupted and a right mess. Again, there's YouTube videos on this. So everything you say, everything you do, everything you think, everything you write down, every symbol you use creates a vibration in the universe. So they want 7 billion people all thinking the same way, so that they can, and they've programming these people, and when they decide that the time is right, they'll flip the switch, and that'll be that. We'll all be in a prison of the mind, and I think 5G is part of this. I think the rollout of 5G, when they turn that on, that's going to lock everybody in. But I don't think it's going to get that far. I think we're not alone, and we're going to be out. I think, because man alone is just so indoctrinated that he's not going to be able to free himself if it gets to that point where we're all being fried by 5G, because it'll put voices in your head. They tested this technology years ago on the protests at Greenham Common, where a bunch of ladies camped outside Greenham Common Air Base protesting the nuclear cruise missiles that were there, and the Yanks were zapping them with microwaves and 5G technology, putting voices in their heads and stuff, making them depressed, suicidal, or stupidly happy, and we're just guinea pigs. They were just testing it out. So the Third World War is going to cull, once they've got this up to speed, they're going to cull us, and that will leave the world in the kind of place that they want, and they won't have none of us, the great unwashed, around to stop them from having their satanic utopia, as it were. Darkness will descend on the world, and that won't be allowed to happen. The light always destroys the darkness, always. You must have noticed that. You'll hear a news story where some politician, like Edward Heath, maybe, was back in the day. Everything was covered up, hidden. Allegations were made, and nothing was done about it by the police, and all this kind of thing. And then years later, I said 30, 40 years later now, it's all coming out. He's an alleged paedophile, child murderer, and all the rest of it, and he was blackmailed into taking us into the European Union. There's a good chance that is the case. I mean, I don't know if it is, but I haven't physically seen the evidence. But stuff generally comes out over time, and the thing is, because we don't ever die, because we're energy beings, our body is just a bag to carry our soul in, so that we can experience the physical world. It's part of our education. So when you die, you're reborn into this was going on there? You're reborn into this physical being again unless you ascend, unless you've learned enough knowledge to ascend to the next stage, whatever that is. But you don't die. I mean, you know, even basic physics tells you, you know, that energy can't be destroyed, it just changes from one form to another. I mean, we all learn that in the brain laundry, don't we, when we were at school. I think it's a lot worse now. I don't think they learn very much these days. They just parrot what they're told, and it's quite scary. I, for one, am getting further and further away from society. Naturally, I'm not making an effort to do it. So the more I understand, the more at peace I feel inside. Their fearmongering doesn't work on me. I mean, I'm sure if somebody kicked the door in and dragged me off somewhere or whatever, you know, then obviously I'm going to be scared or whatever, but their lies on the news and their threats and their, oh, you know, the Russians are the enemy, I don't think so. I think they're all part of the same club. They're all trying to get us to do the same thing in one form or another. Fear is the biggest drainer of human energy, but knowledge is the key to conquering fear. So you've got to learn. You've got to stop worrying. You've got to stop thinking that people have got some kind of authority over you, you know. I mean, but you can't be anti, you know. It's no good spouting off to the policeman because you've got to smash him in the face with a baton, isn't he? Because he's been programmed to that point. Anybody who is that indoctrinated that they want to join a club where you get given a costume and then you just blindly follow orders, don't matter what that is, whether it's a police, the army, whatever, or even most jobs, then they're in real trouble. Their souls are in real trouble, and they won't understand if you stand up and argue with them. But sometimes one word can be powerful, you know. It can stop and make them think. You know, they're expecting an argument and you turn around and say that you forgive them, and that really stumps people, really stumps them. Anyway, I'm going to go now because you've probably there's enough there to think about if you want to think about it. If you're watching this, then you probably will think about it. And like I say, have a look at the Emerald Tablets, the Kabbalion, which was written by Hermes Trismegistus, Max Egan, Mark Passio to a certain extent, UK column, Corbett report. Just take all this stuff in, but you've got to lose the fear. You've got to forgive, but you don't have to be a coward. And Godspeed to you all, and always keep your face to the light. TTFN.